Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
You're watching The Whole Living Show on Trajectory TV.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Whole Living Show. And as always, I have the most amazing guests waiting backstage. One of them, whom you've seen here before on The Whole Living Show, and one other beautiful woman who is here, and she is new to The Whole Living Show, but they have so much to talk to you about. So we're not going to delay. I just have one thing that I want to mention to you in regards to living a whole and healthy lifestyle. I started thinking about making sure that I'm putting things in front of me that I want to accomplish. So one of the things that I am very intentional about doing and have decided that I need to make sure that I'm doing more of it, just because I want it for my own mind, body, and spirit, is to stay connected with God and to read my Bible more and to pray. But I have a prayer list, and I wanted to make sure that I was putting it in front of me. Normally, I have a prayer list that I have to go back to. But this time I decided that I was going to take a couple of, and I won't show the names here just to protect, those beautiful people that I'm praying for. But I wanted to make sure that I put it in front of me and be very intentional about it every day. So this sits on one of my laptops here in front of me so that I can make sure that I am praying every day. And I usually like to, when somebody says to pray for them, I usually like to stop and pray. I never respond to the person either until I make sure that I do. That way I make sure that I'm being responsible and I'm doing exactly what I say. So when people tell me to pray, now I'm writing names down. I have a prayer list here. I have that prayer list in front of me and I'm making sure that I'm doing that. The other thing that I always keep in front of me, which is something that people don't do a lot of, is drink water, right? So I intentionally bought this 32-ounce glass water bottle. I wanted it to be glass because I didn't want to have any of the chemicals from plastic bottles seeping into my water. So I bought a glass bottle, and I actually buy mountain water to put in my glass bottle. Now you can see that my water is blue, and I know you're probably wondering, why is her water blue? Well, I have a little flower bud in here called butterfly pea. And there's a few little buds in here, and I infuse my water with this butterfly pea because I am a woman of a certain age, and I'm not ashamed to tell my age. So I'm 54 years old, and I want to make sure, I have not reached menopause yet, but I want to make sure that I'm balancing my hormones before I get there. And that's what this little flower does. So I infuse my water with it. So you'll see me drinking blue water, probably throughout the show a little bit. But I wanted to tell you to keep those things in front of you. Whatever it is that you want to really be intentional about, whatever it is that you want to do as a part of your daily life, to make sure that you have them in front of you so that you don't forget about them. Because, you know, life moves very quickly, and it's very easy to forget about the things that you set aside for yourself or you want to set apart for yourself in order to accomplish some really good things in your life. So I just wanted to mention that. Keep it in front of you, make sure it's in your eyes view, and then do it, right? Just be intentional and actually get to it. So I wanted to share that with you, but I want to introduce to you these beautiful ladies that I have backstage. I have Martha Glory Kartaoui. She is a resilient cult survivor turned influential leader in the wellness industry. As the owner of PIC Wellness LLC and the creator of Trauma X, a community of trauma healing battle angels, Martha empowers others to achieve holistic health in mind, body, and spirit. This is why she's on the Whole Living Show, because that's exactly what we focus on, all three of those modalities. She has been committed to her own healing journey for the last 14 years and now finds purpose and passion in helping others navigate their next steps toward healing. Martha combines professional expertise, personal experience, and spiritual wisdom to inspire survivors to reclaim their lives and thrive. And we're going to tell you how her and our next guest that I'm going to introduce to you are going to help you thrive. She is also an Amazon bestselling international author, dynamic speaker, trauma-informed coach, TV host of Let Glory Shine, and an event workshop facilitator. So when these two beautiful ladies come in, I want you to make sure that you are giving them a virtual round of applause. And next, I have Bekah George. She is a public speaker who seeks to help people overcome shame, limiting beliefs, and imposter syndrome. She shares her powerful story of how she reinvented herself after facing shame and how this transformation drastically changed her life, believing that it can change the lives of others as well. With nearly 15 years of experience as a licensed mental health therapist, Bekah has walked alongside thousands on their journeys to healing. She emphasizes the importance of self-acceptance and personal growth, guiding individuals to break free. We are breaking free today with these two beautiful ladies to break free from their past and embrace their true potential. I want you to give these ladies a virtual round of applause. Let them in. Here we go. We have Martha Kartaoui and Bekah George. Hello.
Hi. Hello. Thank you so much for having us, Tracy.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want to delay because I know that we have a lot to share. So I want to just really start off by talking about Unbound and telling everybody what Unbound actually is, how the two of you came together and decided to do the Unbound conference.
Yeah, well, I'll start out, Bekah, if you don't mind. So last year, God put it on my heart around September that I was going to put on a trauma healing show or like event. And I was like, no, God, not me. And just like the Lord was relentless and was like, you are doing this and I will help you. And so I had known Bekah and I'd heard her speak on stage, and we were in the same community. And so I kept running into her, and I finally put it out there, and I was like, do you want to do this trauma healing event with me? You're a mental health therapist and you have such a testimony, and you have like, you're what I need. Right. And so it started from that. It started with her saying yes. And then we just started building from there. We met our other co-host, Ashley, and it just started growing from there. So it started with a vision that, like, God starts somewhere, right? It started with this vision. And here we are 6 weeks out, and we are so stoked. And what is Unbound, Bekah?
Yeah, so Unbound is a transformational experience where we're really going to help people to figure out how to not just heal from their pain, but also find some purpose in that pain, right? No matter where they are in their journey. So even if they just started out in their healing journey, or if they've been in the healing journey for 14 years, like Martha, I'm not as far along as she is. But even that, she still says, hey, I still have some healing that can happen. And I always say that pain is an indicator, right? So there's pain that happens in our lives, and it indicates that there still needs to be some healing there. And, you know, God had put it on my heart years ago to do an event, and it was always very intimidating to me. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to do that. You know, find someone else, I'll speak. That's all I want to do. And so, you know, I knew that it was coming, because a lot of times, you know, God has a sense of humor, and he'll tell me something and he'll let me do my thing for a while, and then come back around and let me do my thing for a while. And so when Martha came in and said, hey, I really want to partner with you on this, I was like, yeah, I can't say no. I mean, I knew this was coming, you know. So it's one of those things that is like a dream becoming a reality, and I'm so excited to see it unfold.
Yeah, I love that. So there's something that both of you mentioned. You talked about pain. And I know when I was looking at the website to go purchase tickets for Unbound, it talks about being able to process pain. I wanted to understand from the two of you, why is the process of pain so important?
So I'll start, and then Bekah can give you the clinical reasoning. I just give you the experiential reason. So if you do not feel it in the process, you will not heal it. So you have to feel it. You have to go back, and it's a process. You have to feel it. You have to release it. You have to forgive it. You have to deal with it, whatever it is, in order to heal it. There is no like quick pill to trauma healing. There is no quick fix. Like, it's work. But it's the best work that you'll ever do to become the best version of yourself in order to, move through that healing process. And it is a process.
Sure.
Yeah, and it honestly starts to kind of put little seeds in your mind, right? There's these little seeds that are just kind of like watered throughout the years. So if something happens to you like younger in years in trauma, something traumatic happens, and then it starts to grow, we start to look for evidence of these negative things that have happened in our lives. And it's not always big trauma, you know, sometimes it's little things that can happen as well, but we all have something in our life. And what happens is it starts to create these seeds of doubt, and it starts to actually create negative cognitive distortion. So these thoughts in our minds about who we are and what we could become, and the limiting beliefs, so to speak, of what we can do. And so we actually start to create a whole false narrative around who we are. And then our subconscious mind starts to look for evidence of that. And so what we have to actually do is go in there and get it to the root. So sometimes we will just take an ibuprofen instead of an antibiotic. And so when we take that ibuprofen, it doesn't get to the root of it. It just kind of cuts it off a little bit. And then later on, we'll be like, I thought I was healed from this. And a trigger will come up, and then we'll start to have a panic moment or a sad moment, and realize that pain is an indicator and something's still happening. But really, it all boils down to the fact that we believe things about ourselves that are not true, which then hold us back from being who God created us to be.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. I was writing as you were talking, because I'm like, so many questions are coming up in my mind as you're speaking, right? So there's one thing that you said, and I love that you said this, and you said negative cognitive distortion. And I love that you use the word distortions. When I think about trauma and just like hearing stories, even like in my own family, right, and knowing some of the stories of the trauma, and I think about when those distortions start to come up. Talk to us about why it's so key to have tools to be able to deal with the distortions, because they can continue to, you talked about triggers too, right? Those things can just continue to come up and come up, even when you've done work, right? to heal.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't even know that it's there, right? It's kind of like if you break your ankle when you're 2, and that's what you just have always known it as a broken because you never got it to get a cast and you just never put weight on it, then you just think that that's your normal life. And so sometimes we've been broken for so long, we start to identify with that brokenness, and we don't even realize who we are as a full person. And so, Martha has actually helped me in that process to start to realize you can be, a different person in your healing, right? And it's not like a destination we reach one time, right? Like you said, it comes back up, and then you'll be like, oh, I guess I need to do more work on this. But it's just so important to really figure out what those triggers are and to be able to address them and to be able to be aware of it and to see it, because so many times we try to hide from it because it feels too much. And we want to help people to realize that they can trust themselves, trust their higher power, trust their relationship with God, to be able to have those tools to address it instead of hiding from it.
Yeah. Oh, I can see why the two of you came
So
together
good, right?
as
So
you're speaking.
good.
Yeah, it's so good. So talk about, even because some people don't even identify the triggers. They just stay in that state, whatever that state is. Once they're triggered, they don't really understand what actually triggered them. So talk about how you even get to that point where you can say, I've been triggered, right? I feel this way because, and then how you can be able to come out of it. But I want to start with the triggers, because I think sometimes most people don't even recognize that they're being triggered. They just go into a certain state of being based on what they've been through.
Martha, you want to take that one, or you want me to?
You can take it.
Okay. So honestly, for me, I think it comes down to understanding emotions in a better way. And so there are primary and secondary emotions. And a lot of times the emotions that we are expressing are not the emotions we're actually feeling. For example, when I feel embarrassed, I get angry. And so it took me a long time to start connecting that. And I remember the moment that I started connecting it was, I used to be 330 pounds. I've lost about 170 pounds now. But back when I was really big, I remember being in a moment where I was in a group with lots of people. And this woman said to me in front of everyone, there's like 100 people in the room. She said, it's surprising how put together and pretty you are for how big you are. And I immediately wanted to go to her, go for her jugular, get back at her, because I was teaching a drug and alcohol class, and she, she was an addict, and I could have had tons of things to come at her with. And my first initial thought was to be mean to her. And I didn't. I stopped myself. I was at work. I stopped myself. And I went into the room and I cried and I prayed about it. And I said, God, I'm not a mean person. I'm not a hateful person. I'm not somebody who attacks somebody's looks or whatever. Why would I do that? And I realized I wasn't actually angry. I was embarrassed. I was sad. I was hurt. Yeah. And so when we start to realize that there's something underneath that, typically anger, resentment, frustration, those are not actually what we're feeling. Right. So we have to really start with emotional understanding and awareness and mindfulness. So a lot of times we go through life on autopilot, what I call functional freeze. And so we have to get out of the functional freeze and be able to stop being numb and be aware of those things by taking inventory of our emotional needs mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally every day.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
To add to that, so in layman's terms, feelings are information. This goes back to information, right? Feelings are information, not facts. So when we have a trigger or whatever, and the emotional response, like Bekah was just talking about, was anger or shame or frustration or anxiety or any of those things, right? That's information telling us something about something. So what is it telling us? Is it telling us that, that's a trigger? Is it telling us, what is the information trying to get our attention about? Yeah. And when I first started learning about this, and I started having to take an inventory of my own life, that was scary, because I had lived my entire life in fight or flight. I had lived my entire life with, constantly and being in chaos and being scared and all those things, right? And so I was like, no, this is just me. I'm high stressed. I'm high, but it wasn't, right? When you start peeling away the layers and the coping mechanisms, right? Because we start creating all these coping mechanisms to start getting through life. But you're really just adding kerosene to the fire, right? Because you're already in dysfunction. Now you're adding more dysfunction, right? And so you have to peel away all those layers of dysfunction to get to the core. And when I realized that my overcompensation, my just everything being overcompensated, like being loud and obnoxious, being in your face, I'm still loud, right? Like that is who God made me to be. But I was obnoxious because I didn't want anybody to get close to my pain. I didn't want anybody to be able to hurt me further, right? And so I put up all of these walls, all these coping mechanisms to keep people out. And so I had to dismantle all of those things and get to the core. And then when you start seeing things and you start feeling an emotion, you're like, oh, that's a interesting emotion. Why am I feeling like that? It's a lot of having to really intentionally ask yourself those questions. What just happened? Why am I feeling this way? I wasn't feeling anxiety 5 minutes ago. What happened, right? And having that intentional conversation with yourself in order to see it as information, not fact, right?
That's so good. I love that. Feelings are information. I was just having a conversation with a family member, and I was sharing with Martha before we got on that my beautiful grandma has passed. And you know, when you lose someone in your family, like it stirs up this whole thing in a family, especially when you have a large family, the family dynamic changes. And I was expressing to a family member regarding another family member that you have to just identify with that person how you're feeling, or how whatever it was that they did made you feel, versus getting angry and, you know, remaining angry with this person and not, you know, kind of bringing the relationship back to where it needs to be. But I said, just say you hurt me, because that's really what you're feeling. And then you can tell them why, but, you know, you have to be able to release it. So I wanted to kind of go into that too, because once you understand what you both just talked about, where the feelings are information and how to identify the feelings, then how you get past the feelings, or at least live through them, right? Process them first before you get past them, but process them first, and then how to release them to get to a better place.
Bekah will do the clinical version again. But for me, the biggest way that I released any of my trauma that I have released in the last 14 years was through forgiveness. Forgiveness is key to releasing anything. And
can I interject for 1 second? Do you both believe that forgiveness is for you and not the other person?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that was the biggest hurdle for me. I was actually getting to that, is like the biggest hurdle for me was understanding that I wasn't forgiving them for them to make that their actions or their perpetrations okay. I was forgiving them so I could stop carrying around the bag full of rocks and crap that was weighing me down, right? Like I had to forgive them so I could release myself from the bondage of what had happened to me at their hands, right? It had nothing to do with them. None of my perpetrators know that I forgive them other than one. But like I did it for me. And that was very challenging at first. And because it's uncomfortable. It's like, I forgive you for raping me, starving. Like it just doesn't feel right up here, right? But that's the problem, is that it's not a feeling, that's information again, right? What really matters is who God says I am. And God says I'm forgiven, and therefore I have to forgive, and for me, because that's all, it's all for me. It's not for the perpetrator. And just because I have forgiven the things that have happened to me does not mean that that makes them okay, or makes them not criminal, or doesn't make that right. It's none of those things. It's literally to release myself from the bondage of the pain and agony that I was carrying around because of not only the act that was against me, but of all of the emotional baggage, of all of the pain that I was carrying due to that trauma.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Bekah.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that, you know, forgiveness is definitely the most important thing, both spiritually and in every other way. But I also think that clinically, one of the things that I teach is something called radical acceptance, if you're familiar with that at all. And it's really accepting those things that we can't change. So many times the reason that we're frustrated, angry, hurt, continuing to hold on to things is because we're not living in a place of acceptance. We're living in this isn't fair. It shouldn't have happened to me. I wish it was different. Those types of mentality. And those two things can be true at once, right? It isn't fair. It wasn't okay. It shouldn't have happened. However, it did. And so instead of trying to change it, that lowers your suffering when you fully accept, you know what, like, you may never get that closure. You may never have someone say, I'm sorry. They're never going to know how you really feel about it. You know, and just accepting that is the first thing. And then the second thing is really looking at how this has impacted you physiologically. So looking at your body and how trauma is stored in the body and the importance of releasing it in certain areas of our body. And, you know, a really good resource for that is the book, The Body Keeps Score, and just talks about, you know, how it is, trauma is stored in our body. And a lot of times we think it is a illness or something that is, you know, happens related to, you know, food or allergy, and it's really trauma that's stored in the body. So, you know, that's why there's so many good modalities of treatment for therapy now, because it's so much more psychosomatic at this point, right? So just looking at releasing some of those things, and then also through forgiveness as well.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So when you talk about, and I want to, I'm going to shift gears in a minute, because you just mentioned something about just those tools and things that you can do. But when you talk about acceptance, the one thing that I've learned, you know, over 40, right? Didn't know this in the earlier years of my life. But the one thing that I learned, you know, after 40 was I don't need anybody else to be okay with it. I just need to be able to accept it. So when you stop looking for the validation elsewhere, right? It's between you and God, really. That's all it is. And when you start to do that, then you can gain that radical acceptance that you talked about. But it's so hard to get to that place. Like I said, I didn't realize this until after 40, but I talk to my son about this a lot because he's 18. And I always talk to him about, you know, you have to be able to accept things that happen and then move on, work through it and move on from it. But you don't need anything from the outside in order for you to accept it, right? So I love that you talked about radical acceptance. What do you think people need to do to get there? Because I talk to people a lot too, just doing in health coaching, and I'm more based on the physical side of things, but the emotional always comes into play when you're doing the physical. It all works together, right? In talking to people, that's the biggest thing, like accepting what has happened and moving forward. What are your suggestions, your two suggestions on how you get to that place where you can say, I accept this now and I'm ready to move forward?
For me, it was being able to accept me as who I am, right? It starts with being able to look in the mirror and be like, I like her. She's cool. Now I love, right? It's a process to build up to loving her, because if you don't love yourself and if you don't think yourself self-worthy of the healing or the acceptance, you'll never get there. It has to start here. It has to start with you. It has to start with you accepting you before you'll be able to accept anything else that's happened to you, right? It has to start with you. And you can do that. For me, it was doing inner child work. It was really going back all the way to childhood and accepting the little girl that I let those things happen to, right? Because I carried that shame and guilt for so many years that I let people hurt me, right? Of course, that's not true, but I carried that for so many years. Like, why was I perpetrated against, so much that, and my other siblings weren't? Why me? I must have, something was wrong with me. I was whatever, right? And so I had to learn how to look at myself, love myself, go back to that little girl and accept her as nothing was wrong with her. Those things that happened to her were not her fault. And I had to start there.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I think inner child work is amazing. I mean, it's so great and it is very hard, but it's incredible. But I think, just for me, it was, and this might sound harsh, it's getting over myself and my ego, right? Which was recognizing that I need help. I think a lot of us who have been through things in life, we become survivors, and that makes us strong and resilient. And that's great. But it also sometimes makes us stubborn and unwilling to ask for help. And so for a long time, I was a therapist helping people, and I didn't go to therapy. I said, I'm fine. I'm totally okay. I know what I'm doing, those kinds of things. And I think it finally came to a place where I was like, no, I need to recognize that this actually is something I need help on, because we're just so used to ignoring and pretending. I call it the ostrich. We stick our head in the sand and pretend like it's not happening because that's easier than facing it. And I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with clients the first couple sessions, and they're like, I'm afraid if I go there, I'll never survive it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is if we go back to our childhood, are we going to be able to survive it? We're going to have questions that, like, God, why did you let this happen to me? And why would you be okay with that? I was just a child, those types of things. And I'm afraid if I let myself go there, I've heard people say, I'm afraid if I let myself go there, I won't believe in God anymore. I'm afraid I'll hate my parents. I'm afraid I won't be able to handle it. And so it's really recognizing, like, we can't keep ignoring these things because it will eventually kill you. Just like going back to the ibuprofen and antibiotic thing, we keep putting ibuprofen on it, the infection's still there and it's going to kill you. So it's really like recognizing I just need to get that help, whatever that may look like.
Yeah. Wow. Oh boy, I had so much, so much here. But when you think about, going back to that child, right? That little girl, that little boy. How do you even start that process, right? To be able to identify because some people have, I don't want to say forgotten, right? Because they don't forget, but you put it so deep down that it's almost like it didn't happen, right? Until there's a trigger or until something reminds you. But when you want to do that work, when you know that there's something wrong and you can't really even identify it just yet, how do you go back to that child? How do you tell people to start?
Bekah, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's important to do it with someone who knows what they're doing, right? So whether it's with somebody who has worked through it and they feel comfortable teaching, or a therapist or something, because it can be really damaging to open up wounds and then just sit in them and not know what to do. But what I like to do with my clients is really to, first of all, just look at the limiting beliefs that are showing up in your current life, because people are people of patterns and cycles. And so they're going to continue to show up, right? So whenever I sit down with somebody and say, what is it that you wish you could do that you can't, that you feel like you can't do? What is that voice in your head that says you can't? Or what is the cognitive distortions that are holding you back? And so when I ask that, or, sometimes they'll look at me and I say, what is it? What is the negative self-talk that tells you can't do something? And we start reconstructing that. Like, we break it down and we say, okay, well, when did you learn that, you have to give your body to be loved? When did you learn that? Oh, when you were 13 and your uncle touched you and said that's what you were good for. Okay. So then we break it down into, this is where that voice came from and where that belief came from. I also have a very amazing exercise I do with people on invalidation. And I teach them what it is like to fully feel invalidated. Here are some examples. Here are some things that make us feel invalidated, which then causes resentment. And then I have them go back to childhood and think of some of the times where they felt like their voice wasn't heard, where even if it's, Mom, I need water and no one's listening to me, or, hey, I need something and you're on the phone, and it wasn't malicious, it wasn't trauma, but it was you learning, hey, if I want to get attention, I have to scream, I have to make noise, I have to, I have to get A's to get loved, whatever those things are. And then I start breaking those things down based on the invalidation. So those are two big exercises that I use.
Oh, wow. Yes, it is. It really is. And listen, everyone out there, this is why you need to be at Unbound, right? This is why, because I guarantee you some things are going to come up for you that you're going to be able to overcome at this conference that you may not even remember was there, right? And I want to say this too before we take a commercial break. When you do this work, you propel so far in your life, emotionally, physically, mentally, professionally, right? Everything starts to come together when you continue to do this work. But when you come to Unbound, you're going to be able to identify what these things are with these two beautiful ladies and their other partner, Ashley, in order to just really propel your life. And knowing Martha, right? And I just met Bekah, but I can already feel her spirit, right? They want to make sure that you're getting what you need, that you can be able to come through your trauma. I guarantee you that you have been to nothing like this before, right? We're going to take a quick commercial break. I want everybody to stay right here, because we're going to talk more about Unbound. Just give some previews of what to expect when you get to the conference. All right. And talk about where it is, how you can get access to it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. We are not going to delay. Let's bring Martha and Bekah right back in the room. Hello, hello. So before the break, everyone, we were really just talking about, how to get through trauma, how to identify trauma, some tools even on how to get through trauma and how to recognize, where you are in your life and being able to accept yourself and then move forward. So that's what Unbound is all about, right? And I want to just share with people, give them what you can without spoiling it, right? Because we want you all to come to Unbound, but give us, some kind of tidbits on what's going to be happening at Unbound come September 12th through the 14th.
Sure. So what you're going to find at Unbound is you're going to hear amazing speakers. We have 10 speakers that are going to share their own stories of trauma and overcoming. Because I think that's an important part is to hear other people's stories, because when we hear other people's stories, we identify or we resonate and we're like, oh, holy crap, I'm not the only one that went through whatever it was. But it also gives the audience permission to start telling their story. So often we get lost and stuck in our own trauma that we make ourselves feel lonely, that there's nobody that understands us. There's nobody that's been through what we have, right? And we tell ourselves these lies and these narratives. This becomes our truth narrative, right? Even though it's completely false. So when you expose yourself to other people who have had experiences, have done the work, and are on the other side or are in the overcoming right now, it gives hope. It also gives like purpose, being like, if they can do it, why can't I at least start? Yeah. So then we're also going to have things that exercises and activities that help you start implementing the things that you're hearing, the things that you're learning, the things that we have all used to help take our first step or our next step, right? So there'll be practical tools that we will teach and that we will share. And then there's going to be fellowship. There's going to be community. Community is so important, especially when it comes to trauma, because all trauma makes us feel lonely, isolates us, right? And so understanding that a community is the chosen community, right? Like you've chose to be at this event and you get a community by being there. There is somebody in that room that has been through something similar to what you have been through. I promise. They may have never talked about it. They may have never addressed it, but they've been through something like you have, right? And so that's why community is so important. So you're gonna find all those things. Bekah?
Yeah, you did such a great job of explaining that. I think I just want to speak real quickly to those people who are maybe listening, saying that they don't feel like they have like a huge trauma story. Like, Martha's story is so big, and there's so many like amazing God moments, and it's a lot of trauma. And my story, I have a lot of trauma, and sometimes people will be like, I don't have that trauma, that I know of, right, or that I remember, or whatever. But I sit with people and cry with people who say things like, I just don't feel good enough, or, my body image is messed up, or, I grew up with like a parent who maybe favored one child over the other, like whatever it was that maybe wasn't considered some huge, crazy, we call it big T trauma, which is those major life changes. Even if it wasn't that, there's something that shaped you in a negative way because this world is messed up.
Yeah.
And this world is evil in a lot of ways. And because of that, we don't get out of it unscathed, right? And so there's going to be pain and hurt and all of that. And I'll never forget. I had a vision not long ago. The Holy Spirit gave me this vision, and it was a ocean. And the ocean, I looked at this vast, open, huge, massive ocean, and I felt like the Lord was telling me, your pain is deep. It's been deep, and I saw, or your pain has been wide. I'm sorry, your pain has been wide. And I looked at all of this, like how wide the pain is. And he said, but your giving will be deep. And it was like how much more there's depths versus the length, right? And so I think just remembering that, like, we can give back in that purpose. And so that's one of the things we want to help people who have the big T traumas, the little T traumas, whatever they may be. But we want to help you to feel like there's purpose in that pain. Not that we ever say it's okay, or that we come to a place where we like Martha said, it's not one of those things. We're not toxically positive, but we do want to believe that, there is a reason, that you can find that healing and that it can turn into a purpose.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I had quick story. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I didn't start like coming out to conferences or anything like that until after that. I say breast cancer was like the best thing that ever happened to me. But what I didn't realize until I had gone through that experience is started getting out. I went to a conference and a man started speaking about what happened in his home at childhood. And I broke down because I grew up in an abusive household where my dad used to beat my mom, and I never talked about it. And what I recognized was the cancer was really my way of getting out there. What I didn't realize until I heard him speak was that this was a part of the story that I also needed to tell. And it was a part of my story that I also needed so that I could move forward in my life, right? It was so deep down that I just pushed it aside. I pushed it away. And I didn't really realize it until I went and heard somebody else say that that's what had happened in their household. So this is, I mean, I'm living proof, right? Like you heard Martha talk about this earlier. You heard Bekah talk about this. Like this, I'm living proof of it because I would have never spoke about it. Like it would have stayed stuck there had I not, and I think cancer was really that breakthrough for me to really get out there and be exposed to things like that in order to, have that part of my story come out. So you never know. This is why I want people to really understand that you need to be in the room on September 12th through the 14th. It is September 12th through the 14th this year, 2025, in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm going to put this QR code up now, but I'm also going to put it up again. But you need to be in the room because you never know what God has in store for you, what you need to overcome, what's going to come up that's going to help change your life completely. And it could be totally unexpected. So click this QR code, get your tickets, get in the room, and just get the healing that you need, that you need, or that you don't even expect that you need. Exactly. That you don't even know.
And everything happens for a reason, right? Yeah. So if you're seeing this and you're hearing this, and you've got that little tug in your heart, just do it so that you can, so you can't go back, because once you bought the tickets, that's it. You're coming to the healing with us, and we're not letting you, lag behind.
Yeah. And also, like, when you take that first step, like if there's just something that's tugging at you, right? Or just tapping on your shoulder, nudging you in your back a little bit, listen to those things, right? And take that first step, because I guarantee you're going to feel so much better. Every time I've had some hesitancy or some resistance to something that I've actually gone and done, I've been so glad that I took the step, because I always got something out of it. Right. I was blessed, and I was able to actually bless someone else too. So whatever the reason for you to be in the room, to be blessed or be a blessing, you need to be there. Right. You need to be at Unbound. I also wanted to just mention something too that both of you said earlier on when we started the show, is allowing purpose to come from your pain. And you've talked about this as I was asking questions. Why is that so important also?
Oh my gosh. So I say this all the time. Like when I look at what I've done over the last 18 months, I'm like, I never would have thought this would be my life, because this was not the life path that Martha Glory knew anything about, right? But I also say that every bit of my trauma, all the experiences that I've ever had, have led me to this moment. Because when you do the work and you reclaim you, and you stand in the intentionality and the presence of who God created you to be, then the whole world opens up. You make space possible. And that I cannot emphasize that enough. When you clear out all the yuck and go back into the darkness and release it and let it go, you make room for something that you couldn't even possibly have fathomed could be possible. And so without all of the things that I have been through and healed from and continue to heal from, I wouldn't be doing any of the things that I'm doing. I wouldn't have the tools to be able to put on an event like this, right? I wouldn't be surrounding myself with people like you and like Bekah and like other communities, right? Like there would be no reason for that, right? But when God says, like, I didn't let that happen to you, but I knew you had the courage to heal from it so that you would help somebody else. And that's what God says to me. Like, God is like, I knew you would have the courage, you would stick with it, and you would heal from it so that you could help other people. And that, y'all, I can't tell you how that feels. Doesn't mean this is easy, y'all. This is not always easy, but it's so fulfilling. It is soul work. It is like divine work. And I'm grateful to be in the position that I am, to be able to give back and help others from my experiences.
And for me, my goal, of course, is to make it to heaven and take as many people with me as possible. And I think we don't want to just have healing in heaven. We also want to have healing here on this earth, right? And I remember when I had gotten out of my domestic violence situation a few years ago, and I had never done any public speaking. I'd done a lot of theater work on stages and stuff, but only as other people's character, never as me. And I had somebody call me up and say, hey, you got out of a domestic violence situation about a year ago, right? And I said, yeah, I don't really talk about it. No one really knew, except my, close friends and family. I had just moved across the country. I was very, isolated and sad and all these things. And she said, can you come speak to a group of women who are actively getting out of their situations? And I was like, no, I can't come speak. I cannot say my story. I haven't said it out loud. I don't want to share that. And I felt that, as she said, just take 24 hours and get back to me tomorrow. And that night I just kept hearing the Holy Spirit say, like, this is where your healing takes place. Sharing the story is where your healing, like shame. So one of the things the Holy Spirit told me very early on in this process is there's no hiding and healing. And you cannot hide and heal at the same time. And that's when I was like, okay, I've got to get out here. And that's been one of my biggest taglines is there's no hiding and healing. So I have to put myself out there. And shame makes us want to stay in the dark because shame grows in the dark. And so the more I would stay in that shame, the more, and that's what happens. And we want you to come to Unbound so that you can get rid of that shame. Because that shame tells you there's something wrong with you, that no one's going to love you, that God can't love you. I remember feeling like I was too dirty for God to even love. Like, why would he still want me? And that's not true. And so my belief now is I get to help people to see that connection, to say there's nothing too big or too dirty or too rough or too scary for him. And so it's like those moments. And every time it happens and I see that connect for someone, it's a healing for me because it's God's testimony in my life too.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. This is so
sorry,
good.
To preach. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This is beautiful. No, this is so good. And listen, if you're listening, if you are really paying attention to what Martha and Bekah are saying, this is just a little bit of what you're going to get in that 3-day experience. And already my heart is singing right now, right? Just from what you're talking about. And the fact that you can find your purpose through your pain, that you can be a blessing to other people, right? Through something traumatic that you've gone through. That's the whole point of it, right? Like when Martha said, God said to her, like, you have to be a blessing, right? And now I love that there's no hiding and healing, right? Because you have to let it out so that you can help somebody else. it's not just for you, it's for the good of all of God's people, right? So listen, this is just a little bit. This is just a little bit. And I can't wait for you. I'm going to be in the room. I'm going to be in the room all 3 days. I cannot wait for this. And I cannot wait to just capture some of those moments where people are really sharing, you know, what they've been through and wanting to just be around other people and love on other people and grow and learn from everything that's going to come out of Unbound. I want to give both of you the opportunity to just give some final last words for people who are still feeling like they're on the fence. I don't know how you're on the fence, though, after hearing both Martha and Bekah tonight. I don't know how you're on the fence. You know, just get in the room. But I want to give you an opportunity to say some last words.
Sure. The only thing that I want to say is you are worthy. You are worthy of feeling better. You are worthy of healing. You are worthy in stepping into the highest and best of yourself. You are worthy. And just like Bekah said, there is nothing that you have done or has been done to you that can't be forgiven. So you got to forgive you. You got to step back into you and reclaim you. That's where it all starts. And you are worthy.
Yeah, I love that so much because we are, you know, and so, yeah, I want to reiterate that. And then also just to bet on yourself. Think about, especially those, you know, like the moms out there, the parents, the dads, like the ones who maybe put themselves last and they're constantly putting other people first. I just want you to just take this step and say, I'm going to take a couple days and I'm going to go where no one's needing me, where no one's calling on me, where no one is asking me yet again for the millionth time to make a pancake or to get me a drink or to do something else, right? And you're just going to focus on yourself. And we're not afraid of the hard questions. We're not afraid of the tough moments. We'll be there with you. You're not going to be there alone. But I really just want to say, like, just bet on yourself. You know, just bet on yourself and be there.
Yeah. Oh, so good. You are worthy and bet on yourself. And listen, for those people who feel like, you know, they're doing everything right for everyone else and they haven't gotten that healing, the only way for you to really be effective for other people is to do this work. Because then it's a lot more meaningful when you can come from a place of healing to help someone else from that place, right? So I wanted to put that out there as well. There's I was reading this morning Psalms 136, right? There's nothing that we can do, right, that God won't forgive, right? And throughout this whole book, right, it talks about, it gives you one thing and it says, give thanks to the Lord, right? And then it talks about his love endures forever. And for everything that it says, it goes through his love endures forever. There's nothing that you can do and God won't love you. So if you remember that part, get in the room, do the hard work, come to Unbound. You're already loved. You're already worthy. Bet on yourself, right? You heard the lady say this. So come to Unbound. I want to give you this QR code once again, because I want you to really click on this QR code, get the tickets. I will put the website also. If you're not familiar with QR codes and you want to just go to the website, we're going to put that up as well. But you can click this QR code with your phone right now and go directly to the website and get your tickets. But here it is for everyone who likes to do it the other way, right? We're going to give it both to you, right? Here you go. You can go right to the website here. This is the website, and get your tickets as well. No excuses here. We want to see you in the room. We want to love on you and we want to help you. These ladies are here for you. That's what Martha's here for. That's what Bekah is here for. Ashley will also be joining Martha on the show at the end of August. That's what Ashley is here for as well. So get in the room, connect with these beautiful ladies. Come get your healing so that you can do all the great things that you are meant to do in this world. We love you. I thank you both for being here and sharing. This was absolutely amazing. So I am looking forward to everything that's going to happen at Unbound. Again, Unbound is September 12th through the 14th in Raleigh, North Carolina. And if you don't know, I live in North Carolina. North Carolina is a beautiful state. So you should, you know, if you only want to come because you want to see North Carolina, then just get in the room because you want to be in North Carolina. And then I guarantee you'll get everything else that you need when you get there, right?
Yes.
So thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you right here on the Whole Living Show next week at 7 p.m. Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.